Welcome, welcome. I actually don't know whether people can hear or not. Now. Welcome. Wow. I actually thank you so much for your patience. You saw it was actually, yes, input video. And now we already recording, but we are right big fans of authenticity. And now people can also understand that we also normal people like everybody else, because sometimes people they're so scared. Oh, podcast, no, I'm not ready, I should be. I said, yes, it's just normal conversation with the flow. We are exactly people like everybody. We're trying, we're failing, we're making mistakes, we are experimenting. So now I know at least this input video work, but actually so boring, I need to make music for that. But thank you for your patience, actually. So thank you so much, and welcome to
Thank you.
Diversity is the Game Changer, and our podcast title today, From the Failure to Framework, and you will be my beautiful listener, understanding why it's called like that. And today's episode, we, as always, try to dive deeply into how diversity experiences and in like now with this input video and thoughts and neuro-wiring doesn't just enrich lives, but it reshapes systems, leaderships, and the future we work and live. And our guest today is a visionary operating at the intersection of media, AI, mental health, youth empowerment, advocacy. So much I could just further go on and go on. He operates as an advocacy actuary and Omni-Media Architect. It's so cool. I don't know what it is. That's why I'm dying to ask. Calculating risk and architect revenue for the sovereign entrepreneurs. Empowering the underserved to build uncancelable legacies. Please help me to welcome Mr. T.Berglan. Welcome to the show. Very welcome. Warm. Yes, we need warm now. At least we're in Norway. We need warm.
It's cold here too. Finally.
Yeah.
Well,
So
thank you for
welcome,
having
and known as a globally, I love that. I like this. The world's mayor. He democratizes access to the tools of the future and champions the underserved. With more than 126 IMDb credits and over 500 episodes produced, he has built narrative ecosystems that challenges power structures and sparks cultural conversation. So, from the award winning documentary The Devil Inside Me to Beyond the Curve, his work proves that stories can heal, provoke, and transform. And this is my the best part. And often described the shock jock evangelist for truth. He believes one thing above all: truth is the only currency that matters in digital age.
Mhm.
Welcome to the show, speaker, consultant, omnipreneur, and an unapologetic champion of diversity in all its forms. Oh, wow, amazing.
Mhm.
And it's just 1% actually of everything I just found like briefly about you. So, but now we of course would like to hear more from the first voice from yourself. And before actually all these accomplishments, accolades, right, it was the kingdom of little Joshua once. We all of us, we are coming from our roots, and it's from our childhood. And I do strongly believe that everything what's going on later, it's very much impacted by our childhood. And you're claiming that you're operating like Omni-Media Architect and Advocacy Actuary, and you're actually sharing that your authority and your story doesn't come from just theory, but from your survival. And I know you have very special story, but I would like now to shut down my fontaine, and actually you will be talking, taking the stage and mic, and please tell us and take us to this land and kingdom of small boy once Joshua, and how actually his childhood and everything what was going on there has been impacting your adult mindset, your adult life, and your survival. So please feel free now and take S up mic from me, because then it will not be place for you to speak.
Okay, I would like to, can you ask me the question just so that, again, one more time, so I'm
Yes,
clear on
about your
what I'm
childhood,
responding to?
how your childhood impact your adulthood mindset. And I know you have very special story
Uh,
which is connected and based on adversity and survival, and how your childhood also helped to survive this story. This is the question.
that's a very interesting way to phrase that question, because our childhood affects all of us, regardless of where we're at in life. And for me, I could think about a lot of different things in my childhood that it changed the path of my not changed the path of my destiny, but created some interesting roadblocks and created an interesting journey for myself to live and navigate. I grew up in a pretty privileged home, upper middle class, had everything I could have ever needed, as far as on the surface, but that didn't stop bad things from happening.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Everything from watching, my father be kidnapped to watching the physical abuse, being molested by men and women, the abandonment, all of those things that had happened as a child, and really the sexual and physical abuse that went on through my teens. You know, all of that had a dramatic effect on me. It changed everything forever. But I could talk about all of the trauma that I experienced, and the truth is, the worst trauma was what I did to myself.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I look, there's some things, the way that we respond to trauma sometimes is not really our fault, especially when we're younger. But there came a time as an adult that I was aware that I was doing things maybe not the right way,
mm-hmm,
and that my actions weren't good and they weren't coming from a good place. However, I was walking through life with an untreated diagnosis of multiple personality disorder, or it's called dissociative identity disorder now. And walking through life with that untreated, I raised a lot of hell. I hurt a lot of people. And sometimes I don't remember doing any of it. Sometimes I did. Um, I would disassociate when I was happy. I would disassociate when I was sad. I was disassociate when I was angry. I would disassociate when I was horny. I would disassociate when I was on drugs. I would disassociate when I was drinking. I would disassociate all the time. And so I never really got a good grasp on what being a human or an adult was for most of my life. It took something pretty dramatic for me to turn my life around. And ultimately, when I started that path, when I turned my life around 10 years ago, when I surrendered my life, simply saying, and there's a crazy story, but the crazy story is in the last chapter of my book, The Devil Inside Me.
mm-hmm,
But, you know, I simply, when I got to this point of saying, take my life is no longer my own. Like, take my life, it's yours. I surrender. And that making that decision in locked in isolation of a Los Angeles County psych ward, which was in the jail, and I was facing 5 years in prison. Um, that decision, take my life, it's yours. My life is no longer my own. Saying those words, making that decision, surrendering, dramatically changed my life forever. That said, I could look back at all of the things in my life, like the trauma that I experienced, the sexual identity issues, the chemsex addiction, all of these things that I had experienced or were a part of me. I could think about all of the crimes, the cheating, the abuse, all the things that I did, the stealing, the crimes I committed, the scams that I ran, the gaslighting, the lying, all of those things. Ultimately, my greatest sin was learning to lie. And that changed my life forever. And I could sit there and think about the troubles with my sexuality. Yeah, I did a lot of awful things trying to keep my secrets or trying to figure out who I was. I think about the cheating. I could think about the drug use and the crimes, and all of those things are awful. But the lying is what polluted my soul and my spirit more than anything. And I go back to my childhood on that because, I remember after being molested, what the two guys said to me afterwards. If you tell anybody, we're gonna, and just the threats that came, and I don't even want to verbalize the threats because I don't want to trigger anybody, but they were serious threats. And I think about learning to lie, when people would, well, what's going on? What's wrong? I was scared to admit what had happened to me. And then growing up and, as a young youth, in junior high, even grade school and high school, being called a faggot and not really even understanding what it meant. But yet, was having these things happening to me. And it was terrifying because at church, I'd go to church and I would hear that I'm an abomination and I'm going to hell. And even though I didn't really even understand what was going on with me, I just, like, I knew what was happening. I'm like, but I didn't ask for this. This is happening to me anyway, but now I'm an abomination and I'm going to hell. And then the mocking and the teasing of other people when I didn't even fully understand what it was. All of that was awful. All of it was. But ultimately, the lying about what was real for me, the lying about what was true, the lying to keep other people's secrets. I mean, heck, I can think back at my own life, my childhood, when bad things would happen at home. And, our parents teach us to be honest, but sometimes those same parents are the ones that are telling you to keep secrets because maybe daddy beat up mommy, or daddy was a little rough, or daddy beat me up, and, shh, keep it quiet. You don't tell anybody.
Mhm.
I mean, those things, as innocent as they may seem or not, they affect us. They help contribute to the lie. I mean, heck, Santa Claus, pretending Santa Claus is real. I know that's a very juvenile example, but it's kind of traumatizing when kids find out that Santa's not real. It's not a cute little, oh, that was a white lie. No, it's traumatizing. You find out the Easter Bunny's a lie, the Tooth Fairy's a lie. What else is a lie that we're told, right? But ultimately, learning to lie was the greatest sin because it was the truth that helped me heal. Learning to tell the truth and learning to be honest with myself, yeah, it was painful. Yeah, my truth hurt a lot of people, but my truth also allowed those people that were hurt, it gave them a fair opportunity to be honest. Or, I'm sorry, it gave them a fair opportunity to heal. Because then that the confusion from all the gaslighting and the lying that I did to those people, by being honest and confessing, it gave the opportunity for forgiveness to happen and healing to happen. Being honest with myself allowed me to discover my identity. And in a world where most people are not comfortable with their true identity, or they're afraid to be honest about who they are, I look at that as going, this was the greatest gift ever, was learning to be honest, and learning to be honest about things that most people would never talk about. That not only set me free, that not only allowed me to heal, but ultimately being honest about who I am and also being honest about what I want allowed me to receive really what was meant for me. And ultimately, all these people that I was trying to hang on to, or these careers or jobs that I felt were so important, that went away with my truth, none of that was meant for me. But walking in truth allowed me to attract my tribe. The people in my life now are in my life, and I know they're in my life because of me, not what I was pretending to be, me. So even though I've done all of these horrifically bad things, I was not a good person. But 10 years ago, when I turned my life around, little by little, everything changed. And ultimately, I learned to not just be able to love other people for the first time. I learned how to receive love. I learned how to be a good father, a good partner, a good friend, good in business. That's what truth did for me. And ultimately, I got to be me, the person I was afraid of being. And it was me that attracted the people in my life for me to be able to receive love and then give love, and then also learn empathy and other things like that that were not possible years ago. And as of 2 years ago, I quit disassociating. My mental health is healed. The thing that caused so much problems in my life for so long went away.
Mhm.
And truth did that. Truth allowed me to heal. Truth allowed me to love and to receive love and have, like I said before, have empathy. And because of that, I've been able to not just be me, but love being me. And I know that I'm not going to resonate, or not everyone's going to like me for me being me. That's okay. Because there's people didn't like me when I was pretending to be something else I wasn't.
Mhm.
So at least I know now the people I have in my life are there because of me. And that's people in my life that know the monster I used to be. The devil that was inside of me doesn't scare people anymore, at least
Mhm.
the people that are close to me. And truth did all of that. And I'm so grateful for it. I'm grateful that I got the courage to put a spotlight on my shadow world. It changed everything.
Wow, what a meaningful, deep story and answer. Thank you so much for sharing your bold story so openly, especially about your childhood and the old trauma you have gotten. I can reflect so much about that myself, because my childhood also caused a lot of trauma and adversity, and that's where also from now I'm trying to get my fuel, how to turn this trauma to actually the powerful engine to create something good from that, right? And I like very much one of your letters. You wrote that our trauma and our adversities, it's kind of wreckage, but it's not actually our fault or useless experience. It's our raw materials, right? And
Mm.
it's actually really these special puzzles which we can bring together to for the healing picture. And one of them, it's most important, like you have brilliantly mentioned already, it's empathy and the truth. But truth, of course, we know, especially how, again, you're also writing one of your messages now in a special digital era. It's very challenging time because it's a lot of mask curated pictures, it's deep fakes, it's the last thing we actually produce now with focus at authenticity, right? It's everywhere. You never know it's chatbots or it's real person, it's real story. It's like it's so crazy now. And I'm so thankful for you that you are so boldly advocating for this authenticity by being a role model and showcasing your real story. And so my next question then, you've done so much now to help other people by first of all being yourself and helping, sharing boldly your story. You are creator the methodology from failure to framework. You have your award-winning filmmaker, like you have mentioned already, the devil inside me. And you ran a very successful podcast and unmasking humanity. I love watching this. The last episode I did love so much. You were asking 21 questions with Jess, who is
Yeah.
in charge bullying body, right? And I did love so much that the very first question you asked her, what was about gratitude, because I'm also the fan of gratitude, and my daily routine to write 3-5 gratitude things, right? And that's actually, I want to ask you now how you were asking her, if you should mention now things that just right now, exactly in this moment, in the very present moment, what are you grateful for? I took
Well,
your trick.
I well, that's fresh on my mind because it's a daily practice for me. And
Is that
I I think I've always had a pretty intense gratitude practice, but the last few years has been probably the most intense because I've had so much taken from me with my health, and I'm actually doing much better. I'm not tremoring really bad, which probably says a lot about you because I feel people's energy in my body and frequencies, computer frequencies, phone frequencies, everything. and it affects me pretty negatively. You speaking of Jess, Jess and I've been really close friends for a long time, and I helped raise her two daughters, and we're very, very close friends, and the tremors that I had separated me from them, and they were the closest people in my life, and that was pretty rough because it felt like
I have goosebumps now.
family.
Really, really.
Um,
Oh.
so after having everything taken from me, I losing the ability to talk for a while because of what the frequencies would do, it would choke me.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of my ability to make money went away. And so when I say that God took everything away from me but my purpose, and it's pretty, you talk about something that's really confirming when everything gets stripped away that I thought mattered. And those things that got taken away did matter. But when it really came down to the big picture of everything, when it looked like there was no hope, it looked like I was dying and I was going to lose everything that I'd worked for, the one thing that remained was my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I lost the ability to talk, I also remembered that I knew how to create in other ways, and I wrote 9 books. In 2025, I wrote 9. I published more, but I wrote 9 books, and that's what I did with my time. So anyway, you asked me about gratitude, but what I wanted to preface this by saying that, it's for me a super easy thing to talk about because I recognize, and I was just having this conversation with somebody that is very special in my life. She's been a really great friend of mine, and she's somebody that holds me high, and she's somebody that sees me and has accepted me for who I am. That we're just friends, but my past scares a lot of people out of my life, and like they're afraid. They're afraid that I'll turn back into that devil. So people sometimes don't get really, really close for that reason. I'm close to Jessica. I'm close to a handful of people, but a lot of people that do come in my life, sometimes it's a lot for them. And so with that said, I'm grateful for the people that have come in my life at the exact moments that they have along the way in my journey. Because even the people that come in my life for a week or 2 weeks or a month or 3 months or 5 months, people that stay for a year, 2 years, a day, sometimes an hour, sometimes just a podcast recording, I recognize the blessing that each of those people have been. Sometimes them leaving was the right blessing. Sometimes them showing up just to give a word, sometimes just to make an introduction, sometimes just to remind me that I'm not crazy in this work and this ambition that I have to help people around the world is not a pipe dream. It's something very real. And this is something that's part of my destiny. I'm grateful for those little angels that come in my life. Again, sometimes for a week, 2 weeks, a month, a few months. And even if even if the interaction is not always positive, sometimes that not positive encounter can be something that taught me something to get better, or showed me where I can improve, or showed me how I can be better, or showed me that my discernment is actually on point. Sometimes knowing when to walk away, I've been able to look at all of these different people that come in and out of my life, and it used to hurt me so bad because abandonment was one of the biggest triggers in my life. But to now be able to reframe abandonment as in God is removing them from my life to put what belongs there. So I'm grateful for that. I'm also grateful for the fact that my health is improving. I'm grateful for the first time in my 46 years of life that I know who I am, and that I get to experience love every day. I get to love people. I know what empathy is like. I know what it's like to be sad. These things were impossible for me a year ago, 2 years ago. Impossible. I had no empathy. I couldn't. I couldn't. It wasn't possible. My mental health was not going to allow it to happen, and now I do. So I'm grateful for that, but it's because of these little angels that have come into my life, and sometimes they look like devils, but you know what? The devil's a great teacher too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm grateful for all the people that have been in and out of my life, because without them, I would not be here today. That's my answer.
Wow, this is so powerful answer, and especially in this special time when we celebrate Christmas, and it's a lot of angels believe everywhere. So I feel indirectly that you actually kind of indirectly called me. Also, I put myself in this army, and I'm your little angel, and you are mine, because I can address, I can reflect and understand exactly what you're talking about. Like, so many people, they are afraid to reach out or to be closer, to stay closer to people who are different, who are whose perception on that life and behavior is quite different. That's why my podcast called Diversity is the Game Changer, because I'm advocating also for all kind of inclusion, all kind of people, really in the holistic approach of diversity, and especially on underserved people. And I also experience quite a lot, because I have neurodivergence myself. I'm also in this underserved community, which can be very easily misunderstood, stigmatized, because I have OCD and sometimes quite severe episodes. And actually, my first podcast show was produced last year in mental institution, while I was just in my PhD in mental institution. And and people, when we are made like this, and I'm not judging at all, I'm open-minded person now, that of course everything what is unknown for people kind of looks scary. And also, I'm made in Soviet, many people and many of my friends back to my country, they still have this special approach and lens, that, oh, okay, mental institution, and I have mental. I like very much in this episode, you and Jess actually put so nice, like, we can call mental issues or challenges or problems, but you said like mental uniqueness. I love it.
Mhm.
Because even the way we talk about that, it actually changed everything. Because I last 15 years since I was diagnosed with OCD, I always like could hear from people, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy,
Yeah.
I'm broken, I'm not whole, all with negative impact, right? And of course, it's also kind of filter for many people, like you said. Now, for me, they're also angels. People who reach out to me, who dare, and people even who come and like, oh wow, no, she's sick, or she's mental unstable or something. So I'm also sharing the advocacy like you for really holistic approach of inclusivity and the most important, underserved people. That's why I'm so thankful for everything you are doing. And I want to ask you then about diversity of thoughts, and actually about diversity and inclusion. And I know you are so big on that, right? And of course, it's so directly connected with our mental health. And I want to elaborate with you a little bit about digital spaces now, because I know you are doing a lot of in this space. And first of all, actually, I want to ask, what means Omni? No, wait a bit. How you call yourself? So cool, Omni-Media Architect. What it is? What is it? I love it.
Well, Omni-Media. So there's multimedia,
Uh-huh.
which people are more familiar with. Omni-Media is every form of media, and that includes the metaverse. And so
Okay.
my specialty is actually the monetization side.
Uh-huh.
And I created a system, and this is in my book, Media Company in a Box. And
Uh-huh.
also the curriculum is the bridge to media empowerment. But Media Company in a Box is the concept and the philosophy that allows anyone, regardless of
Mm-hmm.
how much money you have, to be able to create endless revenue streams using and protecting your gifts, talents, and your intellectual property slash your story. And the reason I created this is because there's people out there like myself that don't have an education, that were not mentally stable enough to hold employment.
Yeah.
But also maybe they have limitations like physical limitations, a disability. They don't have the education, they don't have the money, whatever. It didn't matter, because all people need to use my system is a willingness to tap into the purpose that they were created for, as well as tapping into the gifts that they were given, they were born with, and then their life story. And here's the best part. It doesn't matter in your story. It doesn't matter if you've ever been successful. It doesn't matter how imperfect you are. It doesn't matter what your gender is. It doesn't matter what your sexuality is. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter what your education is. It doesn't matter. Anyone can do it. Anyone.
So it's really inclusive tool,
is for
like
anyone.
really inclusive tool, right? Super inclusive.
It is mass inclusion. And here's the part that makes it work. Truth. Because in a world filled of chatbots and AI, because there's AI content creators now, the one thing that people are going to be desperate for, and they probably are now, is a real story, a real authentic story. And now, because of the gatekeepers being removed, because places like in the global south now have access to the same technology that we do, as their infrastructure continues to improve, what you're going to start to see is real, true stories from around the world that change the narratives that we have been force-fed since we were born. We are going to realize that there's people maybe behind the scenes that never wanted us to know the real stories about what happened in Africa, or what's happening in Africa, what's happening in other parts of the world. How did certain powers maintain their power? It probably wasn't by doing things on the up and up. When we start hearing real stories out of Africa and India and the Middle East and other parts of the world, and that truth starts to creep into the algorithms, because it won't be opinions that are shared, it's going to be truthful stories. As that starts to happen, little by little, the coverings, the veil that's over people's eyes is going to lift, and people are going to realize the truth. And when they start to realize and learn the truth about what has really been happening in this world, people are going to be brokenhearted. They're going to be disturbed. But guess what? Going back to the very beginning of what this podcast started to be about, truth. The truth is going to break people in half, but the blessing is in the breaking. The healing comes in the breaking. When we are broken, we will grow back stronger. And that is what is going to happen with the truth of people's stories. I challenge anyone and everyone to stop sharing opinions about things that you cannot prove are true. And no, you can't prove your opinion to be true, because you are not the source of the information. And in fact, even when you're the source of the information, you still have your perspective that can alter the truth just a little bit. So the absolute truth is something that none of us really have. So why in the world are we going through life acting as if we are the authority on what is true? We can't be. But what we can do, because there's a different energy behind sharing a story, sharing our testimony, sharing what we're really going through, sharing how we overcame, teaching what we've learned. If we focus on those kind of things, we would see a shift in the atmosphere. You remove opinions from the algorithm, and instead you're seeing stories. What you then begin to realize is the people that saw each other as the enemy might find common ground. They might find a way to go, wow, you may live 4,000 miles away from me, but I align with your message. I understand. I've been there too. Or maybe compassion will take place. So yeah, I'm all about that. Like this is for me, I believe that this way of this creators economy, this storytelling economy that we're in, and frankly, the only jobs that are going to be available will be the ones we create. And honestly, our stories are the is the best fuel for like it's endless content, especially when we're providing value. So I'm passionate about this because one, it's an economic development system, yes, but it's also a spiritual system
Exactly.
that is goes beyond religion, because the truth, at least when we share what's in our heart that's true, has a completely different frequency. It has completely different energy behind it. And odds are it's going to help people heal. So instead of stabbing somebody that's already wounded or ripping open a scab with an opinion, instead of agitating and stoking the fires with some opinion that you got from some influencer that you may or may not know is being paid by a certain country to say such things, somebody that's feeding into the propaganda, well, you start getting away from opinions and start sharing stories. Now all of a sudden you're free from propaganda. And now you're just getting to know people's hearts. How healing would that be?
Yeah, because I do love very much expression. We all, after all, spiritual being with human experience,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I do love so much. Thank you. It is a very, very powerful message there that you are advocating for the truth and actually radical authenticity and transparency. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically what you said in your tale. And I guess that actually the diversity of thoughts and approaches and stories, when they're radically truthful and transparent, they are so important. At the same time, we know that they can challenge comfort, right? And then but sometimes I do believe that discomfort lead um, to the truth and to the tools which we can transform for the healing methods, right? For the
Mm-hmm.
healing solution. And do you believe discomfort is necessary for growth? And if yes, it's why, like discomfort, adversity, and everything. Because and which part actually of diversity of thoughts and inclusion play in your life and your career, and now you're actually passion everything you're doing? Because I understand you're so focused on actually on serving under served communities, right? And especially now from last year January, we have kind of backlash on diversity in the
Yeah,
US, and many people even don't want to elaborate, to pronounce this word, but I still do believe that's our superpower, that we are different, and our stories are different, right?
yeah.
So my question is, yes, then if we, the transparency and truth actually, right? Uh, it may be challenging because it's true, we live now in this deep fake, but actually I do love so much you wrote that now uh, it's everything about like sovereign entrepreneur, not corporate man, because we live in digital serfdom, right? Yes, I noticed. I make some notes actually.
I can
What
tell.
do you believe we can do with help of AI and with help of technology to have less bias? How technology can be more inclusive?
Well, it's all about the training model that
Mm-hmm.
it's trained on. And that's one of the problems with there's a gender bias with AI training.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, there's even I mean, it goes deeper than that, but the gender bias is the one of the obvious ones. But that has been an issue. Like you get into, and I'm still learning a lot about this. I've been taking a lot of different courses to learn
Mm-hmm.
about how, gender analytics, and like learning about how, really getting into learning more about what it's been like for women to live in this world over the last 100 years or so. I mean, probably even going back to Adam and Eve and going back to Lilith and some really crazy stuff. But like I've just noticed some different shifts in the world where women are rising to power and women are becoming more independent and getting away from, the traditional the ways that we're taught to be, the family dynamic, woman, the woman stays home, takes care of the kids, home, making dinner by 5, like that world is over. And especially
Mm-hmm.
it's happening in America. And some people are freaking out about it. Some people celebrate it. It's very, very crazy all over the place. But, I've read enough books in my life to know that, being a white man in America has been one of the more, it's like your get out of jail free card. There's certain privileges that have come with that because that's
Yeah.
how the world has been set up. And then I read this book about, it gets into what it's like for African American women, African American men, and it went to every nationality and every gender. And one of the things that was very apparent in this book is that women have a much more challenging road ahead of them than men, especially white men. And then you get into the different races, it becomes a whole other issue. And so learning about this, and then I started learning about how facial recognition technology, it's trained mostly on male
Mm-hmm.
images, crash test dummies, mostly men. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so the way that products are made, the tampon wasn't really made appropriately for a woman, neither was the bra. And these are all things that men created. Men created the feminist movement, the Me Too movement. Like, maybe there's something wrong with all that. So
Yeah.
I bring that up just to say that there's tons of injustices in this world, injustice. And there's tons of people that are victim to this game of life. Like they were born into a system that was rigged against them. That is the case for many, many people. And I'm not going to apologize for being a white man. That's dumb. That's how God made me. I'm not apologizing for that. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sit here and act like I wasn't afforded privileges that other people weren't, because I was.
Mm-hmm.
I know I should technically still be in prison, if not executed. But probably because I was white, I kind of got out of trouble a lot. And truth,
Mm-hmm.
because I know African American men that would not have gotten out of the situations that I was in. That's a fact. That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't feel guilty for it, but I do know that I can do something about it. But also, I look at creatives and artists. Artists are the most unappreciated people on the planet. Like, even if you think about successful actors in Hollywood, they typically have handlers. They don't have any real power on their own. They have somebody that controls them and dictates what they do. So they don't really have any true creative freedom unless if they earn that, and that's a whole other conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm passionate about working with artists and creatives because for too long, the starving artist theory has been around. Like, our artists shouldn't starve. Our artists are the futurists, the forerunners of, they paint our future for us. Like,
Mm-hmm.
artists are needed, creatives are needed. Thank God we're in a creators economy now, because, well, God created us to create, and we're in a creators economy. How amazing is this? So this means regardless of what diverse group that you come from, you have the same fair shot at success as anyone else. So I don't choose a diverse group. I'm for all of them because I have a good understanding of what those groups go through from the perspective I've been able to see it through. But that perspective was enough for me to care about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I learn more and more and more every day of a different group that has been marginalized or has been, had the game rigged against them in some way. And it's unfortunate, but I'm here to fight for them all. The reason I don't get preachy, I'm a man of faith, but I'm here for people of all belief systems. I'm here to serve everyone because, you know what? God created all of you. And if you're in need and there's something I can do for you, I'm here for you. Period. I don't care what you've done. I've worked with prisoners. I still work with prisoners, people that are still in prison, and they're accused of some of the most horrific crimes you can imagine, but they're rehabilitating their life. And I know what it's like to hear from people, you're always going to be a deadbeat. You're always going to be a junkie. You're always going to be a piece of, crap like your dad. I know what that's like, but I turn my life around. And if I can do it, I know anyone can. And at the same time, I also know what it's like that even after 10 years of living a relatively clean life, and living an honest life and a life of integrity, like, I know there's still people that are going to look at me like the monster I used to be. And that's just part of it. But that's a small case. That's a small example, because on the bigger picture, I get to look at all the ways that I've been blessed, and the joy, like learning the joy and suffering. Like, that is a great blessing. I want that for other people. It's not that I want people to suffer, but I do want people to realize that no matter what you do in life, you're going to suffer. You might as well learn how to find joy in it. And when you find joy in suffering, you're the most free person alive. And I want that for everyone. I want that for everyone who has suffered. I want that for the people that they fall into debt slavery. You know, like, there's this thing called brick kiln slavery that happens in India and Pakistan and some other places where, like, if you need an emergency surgery and you need something desperate because, you know, they don't have free healthcare there, you need that desperately. The only option that you have is basically going to a loan shark, essentially, and you get in debt with this person that pays for you to get your procedure done, but then you're in debt for the rest of your life and there's no getting out of it. And that creates a slave. There's so many different forms of slavery all over the world that does not need to exist. It needs to be eradicated. There's too many people in inner cities around the world that feel hopeless. And what makes it worse, those kids in the inner cities that feel hopeless, half of the hopelessness feeling comes from the people in their very community. Because anytime one of those kids from the inner city says, you know what, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a police officer, I want to be an attorney, I want to be a teacher, people in their own community hold them down and tell them no. Like, who do you think you are? You think you're better than us? People stay in the poverty cycle. People stay in the poverties of addiction. Human trafficking victims, they go back to their captors because, like, at an extreme rate, like over 90% of human trafficking victims that escape go back to their captors because the devil you know is better than the one you don't know, or that's the belief. And that lie gets stuck in people's heads. Therefore, they stay stuck. They stay broken. They stay addicted. I know people that find religion and find God, and that religion that's supposed to set them free, no, they use that religion to bury themselves into further depression. And it's crazy to me. That's not how we were created to live. We were created to live free. But frankly, most of us are slaves and we don't even realize it. And you know what? Who those slaves are that don't realize it are the people who are living lives that they don't want to live. The people that are saying, well, you know, I can't do that. That's, you know, I've always dreamed of doing that, but I've got this job and this is how I pay for my big house and my country club. And this is how I keep my wife happy and blah, 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 blah. They've got all this crap, right? But then what happens when that job goes away and you can't get it back? You can't find a replacement, because guess what? That's going to happen. So you were hanging on to earthly things, right? Because you got to pay for the country club, you got to pay for the cars, you got to pay for the boat, you got to pay for all those things, and none of that really on the surface it matters, because it can be taken like that. What do you do then? Then you're going to go, gosh, I guess I should have pursued the desires of my heart. I guess I should have believed that dream that was placed in my mind and my heart as a kid, that this is what I was supposed to do. Maybe I shouldn't have denied that. Maybe I should have pursued it. Because those dreams and visions that are placed into your mind, into your heart, is God showing you what's possible for your life. It's not there to mock you and tease you. So we have a lot of really unhappy, miserable people that are living lives that are completely defiant of the reason what they were created for. Meaning they're doing the exact opposite of what they were created to do. Of course, you're going to be miserable. So every car, you buy a brand new car and you buy a big fancy car and it's an electric car and it's got all the fancy gadgets on it and it reads your thoughts and it reads your brain. And then all you have to do is plug it in, right? That's what the manufacturer says to do. You plug it in, everything else is going to go perfect for you if you just plug in the car when you get home. But you decided to put gasoline in the electric car. So you've gone against what the manufacturer created for the purpose of that car and what needed to be done to that car to make that car run appropriately. What the manufacturer, the creator said to do, you decide to go against it because you thought that you knew better. I'm going to pour gasoline in my electric car. What do you think is going to happen to the car? It's not going to run correctly. It may not even run at all. How many of us as human beings do the same exact thing? We defy the manufacturer of our lives. We go against the very things that we're told to do to make our lives better, to run at an optimal level, to be our best. And then with this same car that we tried to drive and enjoy, we decided to take it boating instead. We tried to take that electrical car and treat it as a ski boat. Again, operating the exact opposite reason we're created. What's going to happen? The car's going to electrocute and not going to work anymore. We do that with our own lives, but the only difference is when we defy our purpose, we still have an opportunity to get back on track. We have that opportunity until we're dead. And so many of us are wasting thinking, well, there'll come a job, there'll come this, I can wait. No, the time is now, and there's no more waiting. There's no more waiting. That job you're looking for, waiting for, hunting for, it's not going to be there. Now is the ultimate time to pursue the desires of your heart, to do that thing you know you were created to do. There has never been a better time in history to do it than right now. Right now, and you don't even need money to start. And that is what I teach people to do.
Wow. Amazing. I do love that you are so passionate about everything. Even I feel the frequency when I'm talking with you. It's so powerful that exactly right now, this moment. And we have been elaborating about gender inequality, of course, and about artists. And they are actually, yes, they really propel society. All these special, unique minds, they are behind all the innovation, and then mostly of them neurodivergent, and the society kind of propel and survive because of them. But still I feel it's paradox that but still people like you and me neurodivergent, we like don't fit in because the whole society package are designed for neurotypical people, right?
Yeah.
And the system's killing all the time in communities. And my last question for our conversation today about this neurodiversity and people, then for us it's even more difficult to break the whole this cages where we are actually are taught where we put every single day because we don't fit in, right? And then what does the future design actually with people for people with neurodiversity in your mind actually should look like? How we today, you and me, just today can, we already do, just right now, I do believe we're making change and impact by even talking about that. But how can we actually, you believe some practical steps organization should make to make that environments for neurodivergent people can be more suitable, that we are not just should survive all the time, but we can also thrive in these communities? I don't know, is it even possible?
Well, it's possible, but I'm fortunate too that because of the media tools available, we don't really need other people to work.
Mm-hmm.
I like working with groups, but I don't want to join groups. Like I want to come in, play my role and leave, and then play my role somewhere else and play my role somewhere else and play my, because I know what I do. I know what I'm good at. I want to stay in that wheelhouse. And I frankly think that any employer, they would be very, very wise to restructure the whole format of their company to cater to neurodivergence, because neurodivergents are extraordinarily gifted. When you put them in positions to succeed, and you put them in positions where they get to use their gifts and talents and intellect and their experience, in a way, you set them up for success by allowing them to do what they're good at and just be freaking maniacs about it.
Yeah.
Like that is that it's a strategic thing. You see everybody, you're like, all right, so this person's really, really great at that. So, and then you may have to have you have to have good vision, and you have to understand how strengths work together. So the person that manages this and oversees this would need to be able to identify strengths and then see how strategic the collaboration would be by pairing up this person with this person, with this person, with this person. And sometimes it, like for instance, you think about superheroes. Well, you don't need all the superheroes at one time because sometimes certain strengths overlap. You want people to stay in their lane, stay in their area of greatness, but then team up to work to go accomplish the goal. If businesses operated that way, to just focus on gifts and strengths, they would operate much better as an organization, but then so would your management, because the management, what you would essentially need is someone that understood how to manage and oversee those talents, to protect them, to pull them out. Like, hey, this mission's not for you. This is not the right fit. This mission's better. You have to have someone that knows how to orchestrate all of that, but you would be able to operate more lean and mean as an organization. You wouldn't need so many different employees, because the thing about the neurodivergent brain is that there's a lot of different gifts wrapped into that gift. So you can get a lot out of them, and because of their ability to hyperfocus, they can get more done when they're put into a position where they will succeed. But you take a neurodivergent and you try to force them to be something they're not, or to do something they're not able to do, they're going to fail, and they're going to make everyone's life miserable around them. Another thing too, instead of people like when we all, this is another reason why I'm passionate about people living in the purpose they're created for. When you're living in your purpose, you don't have time to be a racist, homophobic douchebag. You're, in fact, if anything, you're more likely to celebrate people's differences than you are to criticize. Because when you're living in your purpose, you recognize your uniqueness. And when you're unique, you don't want other people to be like you. No. You want other people to be themselves.
Yeah.
Because that's how you can get things done. When people are truly walking in their identity and living in the purpose they were created for, it's much easier to position those people in such a way where everyone can succeed and everyone can work together. So one, we can start living in our purpose. That's going to help, yes. But the other part is, if you're not going to choose to live in your purpose, do this next best thing. Instead of criticizing differences, seek to understand them. There's a reason people choose the religion they choose. There's a reason people are the sexuality that they are. So there's a reason why people may have trauma responses to your mouth noises. I don't know. There's all kinds of, there's reasons for it. Some of those reasons may seem ridiculous. However, to that person, it's not going to feel so ridiculous to them that has the thing that you don't like. But guess what? There's things about you that other people don't like either. But if we seek to understand, what we're doing is creating a compassionate atmosphere for people to be themselves. One of the most horrifying things in the world for me was to be honest, not only about my mental health, but to be honest about having HIV. I've been undetectable for 10 years, but it doesn't matter. Like to talk about that openly was the most terrifying thing in the world for me. And I was fearful of the consequences. Me talking about the sexual identity issues that I had for most of my life and not knowing what the heck I was. And the reason I didn't know what I was is because I had multiple personalities, and each of my personalities was different. Like, no wonder I couldn't figure it out. No wonder it was confusing. Now, here's the other thing. But when I finally got where I was comfortable with being honest about it, I felt safe. And I felt protected. And yes, it was hard having people look at me like I was weird, but at least for the first time, I wasn't afraid to be honest. But we make it so difficult for people to be honest and to tell their truth. And with that, it creates a very, very dangerous environment where people are not being themselves. I mean, there's a reason why people are using AI photos with everything. There's a reason why people are choosing to to live these facades because they're afraid of letting people see who they really are. And that's not very good. We're not being good humans that way. Like, we are all interesting people, and all of us have healing to do. And there's some that need more than others, but knowing that, shouldn't we lead with compassion instead of judgment? Because neurodivergents are not that hard to figure out. It just may require an extra question or two to learn. But once you learn how your neurodivergent brain friend, you learn how their mind works, you might find yourself having one of the best times of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, being neurodivergent's a gift. But frankly, most of us have been treated like we're, crazy people and should be locked in psych wards.
Yeah.
And, and society has made it so unsafe. I could see why people would see that way.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is that it's neurodivergents that are going to save the world.
Exactly.
It's
It's us.
neurodivergents that
It's
are changing the
actually
world for the
us.
better.
Yeah, it is. It's you and me. Amazing. My last question, and actually, you remember when I met you a little hour ago, I said I was looking around for some special thing that I didn't find. I have one in my Paris studio. But okay, let's pretend we put our imagination skill that I have. I call her vice president, but it's actually little small cute Aladdin lamp. And I'm always taking this Aladdin lamp in the end of the show. And I'm always also make a little bit intrigue. And I said, and now it's the time that my vice president shows up. And everybody like, oh, are we three? All of a sudden in the studio. And then I pull out my Aladdin lamps and said, no, this is my vice president. And I love her so much because she never shouts out on me. But she is also very powerful because she can make through all the wishes of my honorable guests. So always I'm like to wrap up with like a little bit magical childish note. We opened with our childhood and magic and also close up. So let's just pretend that I have this still pink beautiful Aladdin lamp, which is magical and sustainable because she tries to make as many wishes as possible. And the very last questions, if you should now make just one wish. Unfortunately, I cannot grant three because it's still quite small, beautiful, fragile girl, but at least one wish for every of my guests she can promise to make it true. So that one wish that can be granted for you, how this wish should sound today for Joshua? What wish you would make?
I wish to build 500 media empowerment centers worldwide that helps 500 million people worldwide. These media centers will be placed in inner cities and communities all over the world. The purpose behind them will be to provide a safe place for the youth to go, but also people that are neurodivergent and people that have, troubled past. It'll be a safe and secure building, but in these facilities, they'll have food, there'll be shelter for certain people, but there'll also be resources to help people be able to really bring their stories to life. So all the media tools that will be necessary to do so, but essentially they will turn into like storytelling factories where people will be able to use their stories to launch their empires, to launch their careers. Because again, we're going to a creator's economy, a storytelling economy, and a lot of the people in this world will not have a job. They won't have the education. In fact, 80% of the world doesn't have the education to have them prepared for the world that's coming. That's a fact. So these facilities are going to help pull people out of poverty. They're going to empower people to share their stories, but also be able to create endless revenue streams. And the idea behind this is to, one, obviously all the media tools available allows people to create those endless revenue streams, but to have a safe place to go to one, to bring these stories to life, but also a warm place and a safe place to go to heal. The truth is what helped me heal. I do not disassociate anymore because of truth. I had a safe environment to work that truth out when I was a bad liar for most of my life. So I know how powerful it is to tell the truth, but I know how important it is to feel safe in doing so. So these centers are like a boys and girls club, but again, they're going to provide all of the media tools. So it's going to provide the necessary resources that are available. If somebody was a human trafficking victim or they just got out of prison, they're not going to integrate with the youth, but there'll be a safe and secure area for them to get counseling, to get the tools that they need to rehabilitate their life in a way that is not humiliating, but empowering. And also not in a way that sets them up for failure, but in a way that they can see the benefits immediately. I talked about the devil we know being better than the one we don't know. Well, I want to change that, because if you can show somebody like impact day one on what they're doing, they show people a positive benefit from their action, they're stepping in faith, for them sharing their heart, from sharing their story. You show people the benefit day one, more likely they're going to stick around and keep at it. It's not a guarantee of success or riches, but it is a guarantee of opportunity. It is a guarantee of the opportunity to heal if you continue to do the work. And I don't believe for a second that God created any of us to fail with the purpose we were given. The reason we fail is because we defy the purpose we are created for. So these facilities are purpose living facilities. It's to pull people off
Wow.
the street. So
I
500
want to
cities
be in your staff.
worldwide, 500 million people. That's the goal. That is my wish.
So now you have 499, 99, 90, because you have already one. I'm joining immediately staff. My vice president, we have two. Amazing message. I'm so touched, so powerful. I like really shaking of the good frequency and like on a spiritual way and the holistic way. All my bodies, all my, we know you and me how many bodies, and yeah, we have. So thank you so much. I do really appreciate it. Genuinely impressive and touching and deep conversation. I could not wish more powerful and deep conversation before we wrapping up this year. So thank you for joining us
Thank
and
you.
sharing your really honest, radically transparent, truthful story. And by encouraging this radical transparency and through celebrating diversity of minds, we are reflecting about the future we should build in togetherness. So if diversity is the game changer, the inclusion is the rule book, and truth and empathy is the power sources, right? So my beautiful audience, thank you for listening us. And until next time, stay curious, stay human, keep changing the game. Thank you, Joshua, so much. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
In this upcoming year. I hope it's not our last time we interact, and I really hope that we can make even more beautiful impact together. And I've already invited Jess into my podcast, your very beautiful friend. She said yes. So I also wrote to her that I would be more than happy to join your army, guys, and we in togetherness we can harness the power of collaboration and do even more impactful change for especially underserved communities which we are belong. Thank you so much. Now actually I'm authentically I'm still improvising with this app. So now I push the button and it should be this video like bye or so, I don't know, maybe it's coming. So just so you know,
give it a shot and see what happens.
Yeah, but maybe it's also will be boring. It will be just video and I need to practice more with music. Okay, I'm so happy. I really feel like blessed to have you. You are now in the army of my little angels of this year. And I hope in next year we can talk more, maybe all in together, and find out some beautiful pathways how we can, yes, make even more impact for all those little angels.
I'm here for
Sounds
it.
nice?
Sounds wonderful.
Okay, perfect. Now you know. Now we will see how actually this tools works. I'm not that good as use all this, so I'm trying.